What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Church Boy V. Hope you're having a blessed day. Today we're gonna watch and react to how to make biscuits. We better make biscuits like grandmama and mama make from scratch. It's gonna be interesting because it's like the so-called Popeyes biscuit. So it's gonna be nice. Cause I went to a men's conference Saturday. They had some huge biscuits, but they were soft and fluffy. But I can't even say the word. They were real soft and fluffy. So I wonder, is these gonna be them kind of biscuits, or they just gonna be like the Pillsbury Doughboy type biscuits? So hope you're having a blessed day. Let's get into the video.
For better biscuit baking. First and foremost, what makes a perfect biscuit? They need to be soft and flaky, tender yet sturdy, buttery and moist, and number 4, tall or risen. So I'm going to use Chef John's perfect biscuit recipe. All right, let's start with our main ingredient, all-purpose flour. Now, a lot of recipes call for self-rising flour. Most of us just keep all-purpose flour on hand, and it takes about 2 seconds to measure the leaveners in there. So I think we can handle that. Biscuit ingredients are best kept cold. So I even keep my flour in the freezer, not just for biscuit making, but all the time, and it just saves cabinet space. One of the biggest complaints about imperfect biscuits is that they're too dry. There's probably too much flour in the biscuit to begin with. So the proper way to measure flour is not to scoop your measuring cup into the flour, because it packs down and you end up with more flour than you actually need. The proper way to measure your flour is to spoon it into your measuring cup. I like to go a little over and then level it off the top. To be extremely accurate, you could use a digital scale, but most of us aren't going to do that. I'm going to show you that these are going to turn out just fine doing it this way. All right, 2 cups of flour. To that, I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of baking powder and just a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda and a teaspoon of salt. That's it. We whisk together our dry ingredients so that they're evenly incorporated. Now, for the most important ingredient, in my opinion, the butter. Now, you could use shortening to make biscuits, but flavor-wise, butter is the best option. So you can either put your butter in the freezer for a little while, or just keep it in the fridge until you're ready to use it. Most recipes will ask you to cut the butter into the flour using a pastry blender. I don't even own a pastry blender, to be honest. So I think, and this actually, in my opinion, works better, is use your box grater to grate your butter, and I'll show you how it'll help work it in. For extra insurance, I like to go ahead and freeze this butter just like this for about just like 3 to 5 minutes. It stays nice and separated. That's just what we want. So I'm going to add that to the flour. And then I just use a fork to cut it in because everyone has a fork. Okay, once our butter is cut in, I like to form a well into the center, and we're going to pour in buttermilk. A lot of recipes just call for regular milk. I think the buttermilk, the acidity in there combines with the other active ingredients, and it just turns out to be a better biscuit. And then just mix it. Remember I said we want our biscuits to be tender, yet sturdy. Well, the number one way to get that is to not overwork your dough. So we're going to mix it until it just comes together, and then we're going to turn it out onto our surface. I think there's enough flour still left unincorporated that I don't need to flour this surface just yet. In order not to incorporate too much flour, it's safer to just kind of flour your hands and your work tools. We're just going to work with this dough just enough to bring it together. So we're going to start with a rectangle that's about 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch in thickness. You know, we want those biscuits that are tall, and this is how we're going to get those. Then you take that rectangle and you fold it into thirds. We're going to twist it halfway around and pat out another rectangle. And we're going to do that about 3 more times. After the last time, now we're going to pat it out one more time into about 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch thickness. Now, this is a good time to invest in one special tool, a biscuit cutter. The thing about a biscuit cutter versus another kind of cookie cutter or using a glass is that it has sharp edges. So it can cut right down into the dough. So that's going to allow your dough to still be able to rise. If you use a glass, it kind of mashes down the sides a little bit, creating a not so risen biscuit in the end. All right, so we want nice sharp cuts. So I like to dip my biscuit cutter into the flour just to keep it from sticking and pushing the dough down. You don't want to twist too much.
Okay.
This recipe gets me about 8 biscuits. If you want to use a smaller biscuit cutter or roll your dough out a little bit thinner, you'll definitely get at least 12. Now you've got your scraps. Those are not waste, but again, you don't want to overwork it, so you just want to bring it back together just enough to get a couple more biscuits out. Okay, now it's time to bake. First of all, make sure your oven is set at a high temperature before you even start, because we want that dough to stay cold until it's time to go in the oven. So preheat your oven to 425 degrees. Okay. Then when you place it on a pan, I use a parchment lined baking sheet. Another good option is a cast iron skillet or even a round cake pan, because you want the biscuits to touch each other or the sides of a pan, because they need something to cling onto so that they can grow as they bake. So I like to put them on just touching the sides and just touching each other. Now we love a good golden brown biscuit, but you might want to pull them before they overbake. Okay, the overbaking is again what causes that crumbly, not so tender biscuit. So it's okay if they're just on the lighter shade of the brown that you want, because they will get browner once you put the butter on. So we're going to bake these for 13 to 15 minutes and just keep your eye on them. Oh yeah, look at that. Okay, those are good and golden. Now the butter over the top. Have you ever seen anything more beautiful? Well, let me show you something even more beautiful. Even though you can't physically hold and smell and touch and taste these, you can see just how tender they are. They're tall, they're tender, they're flaky for sure, they're buttery. I mean, I think I hit all the points. Oh my gosh. They literally melt in your mouth. So there you have it. Tips for the best biscuits ever. Remember, they're soft and flaky because we did not overwork the dough and we used that cold, cold butter. They're tender yet sturdy because we didn't overwork our dough, developing all that gluten. They're buttery and moist, again, because of that buttermilk, and not adding too much flour. And they're tall because we folded those layers and let it crawl up the pan as it baked. I hope you enjoyed baking up some comfort food this holiday season.
Shoot, that ain't comfort food. It's like Sunday morning, that's like Saturday morning type food. Because Popeyes, for example, they stuff be dry as heck. I see why they be dry. Because they be having too much dough. Now, that stuff was flaky. You can tell how flaky it is, and you can tell it ain't dry, like dry. It's like, I mean, it's a little, it look moist. It don't look dry. So I'm about to try that out, because some of these biscuits at these places be super dry. You gotta drink water after you eat it. But look like you don't have to drink no water. So hope y'all enjoyed the video. Man, it was pretty cool, man, to see that why these biscuits be so dry. So y'all let me know in the comment section what else y'all want to react to with these cooking videos. God, Jesus, Holy Spirit, love you. I love you. And I just got to say, next couple weeks, man, I got some surprises for you guys. So y'all have a blessed one. We out.